Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. In this video, I want to come back around and give you the most basic study tips when it comes to passing the NASM exam using their textbook. Now, nothing beats, quite honestly, going through the NASM study prep course that we provide, obviously, at Body Design University, where I do videos on every chapter. But I will give you a little insight, little tip on the most basic way to deal with the NASM textbook. And NASM did a great job when it comes to providing you the resources basically to navigate their textbook, learn the material, and pass their exam. And the most basic study tip is that there's four things I want you to do, or four things to consider when you open up their textbook. The first thing, and it might be five, but let me give you the very first thing. I always recommend, if you've got the time to do it, depending on when you're going to be taking your exam, the very first thing I recommend you do is peruse what we call peruse the textbook. And what I'm saying there is you're not going to study the material. You're not going to study the textbook. You're simply going to open it up and just kind of look through the chapter, start from chapter 1, go all the way to chapter 23 without spending a whole lot of time trying to memorize anything. One of the simplest ways to do this is to, as soon as you open up the chapter, start looking for chapter headings, right? And I'll give you an example. I'm at chapter 1, the modern state of health and fitness. And this is what you do. And you're going to do this for every chapter, is you read the learning objectives, and this is the perusal. So you read the learning objectives, and then you look at the heading titles. Welcome to NASM. And then the next heading title, I'm not reading. That's the whole point here, is don't read this entire textbook unless you know how to really just skim through it. Because what ends up happening is that you turn a, quote, perusal into a study session. That's the last thing you want to do when you first initially come. One of the ways to study this is get too caught up in studying it. So this recommendation, this methodology gets your brain sort of warmed up. And what I do is I read the learning objectives and I read the heading titles. Welcome to NASM, the NASM Certified Personal Trainer credential. And I look through and I'll notice that I get to the next one, evidence-based practice, that there are a couple of terms. You look at those terms, you may want to read the side panel definitions and then move on to the next page. Stretch your knowledge box. I would read. This is how I peruse through the book. Do not read it. Now, for those of you that like to read, your perusal could be reading through it. But again, here's what I don't want you to do. Don't turn the perusal or the just a basic run through of the text. Do not turn it into a study session, because that's generally what happens. You start reading through it and then you're like, oh, geez, I need to memorize. Don't do that. If you can't help yourself, then don't do the perusal. That's number one. If you can do a perusal, which takes, now watch how fast I'm doing this. This is real time. As I'm going through, I read some heading titles, look over to the side, I look at some of these terms, these words. I don't need to know the definitions because it's not a study session. It's a, quote, perusal. I read the words, I'll say them out loud. Maybe I'll look at the bullet points. Okay, I see a figure, 1-3 spectrum of health. Great. Oh, some training tips, stretch your knowledge. I'm looking at a figure, preventable causes of death. Do you see how fast I'm moving through this? I'm literally taking a couple of seconds looking at the words, the titles, and maybe some of the definitions, but I'm not spending a lot of time trying to study. This is called a perusal. I see a table for BMI classification. Okay, I see BMI critical. There's a critical box. I may want to read that. Heart disease, stroke, heart attack, heart failure, heart valve problem. By the way, I'm on page 11. Heart valve problem. Okay, let me just move on. Do you see how I did that? That's called a perusal, folks. Now, like I say, if you can't help yourself, then don't do that, because that's going to slow you down. Okay, if you don't do the perusal, you do the perusal. Either way. Here is the next. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, every single chapter you go to, the first place you start is not at the beginning of the chapter. It's at the end of the chapter. Let me get to the end of chapter 1. Every chapter starts the same way. You go to the end, you will get a summary, chapter review, and a chapter highlights section. 23 chapters, 23 summaries, 23 chapter reviews, 23 chapter highlights. Some of them are longer, some are shorter than others. So number one, peruse, or don't peruse. If you're not going to peruse, then this is number one. You go to the back of the chapter first, read the summary, read the chapter review. Do not take notes on the chapter summary or the chapter review. You don't need to. It's there again to kind of warm, maybe I'm not the best way to say it, but you're warming up your brain. Chapter summary, chapter review. It's the chapter highlights I want you to focus on. And those are bullet points. You read those chapter highlights one at a time and try to summarize each of them. Once you've done that, now it's time to go to the front of your chapter. Okay, so if you peruse, that was one. Then that part at the end was the second tip, right? If you didn't peruse the chapter, the textbook, like I said, then you are using that as number one thing to do. The next thing to do is to go to the front of the chapter, and this is in your now study sessions. This is not a perusal in. This is actual studying the chapter. Now you're looking for tables, charts, figures, okay? And as you flip through the chapter, you're looking for those and you're stopping. That's where you're going to spend a little bit of time looking at that information, either in the table, chart, or figures, and try and understand what they are basically telling you. In the case of figure 1, 2, the OPT model, it's probably a good idea to memorize the different phases and the different levels. Okay, you're going to see that throughout the book anyway, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm also looking for bullet points. I see bullet points on page 5 in chapter 1. I'm going to look at those, and I'm going to rewrite those. The next thing, so you get that, figures, charts, tables, and you're going to see them throughout the textbook. Okay, and you spend time on those because that's where you're going to get a lot of questions from on the exam. So the next thing you would do is now look at your side panel definitions. Y'all can see that? It's definitions on the side panel. Thank you, NASM, for doing that. That's really helpful because now you know the terms that you're probably going to need to memorize. Now spend some time reading those, rewriting them, and their definitions. Okay? So first thing you do is you go to the back of the chapter. Let's just forget about the perusal. If you did it, great. If you didn't, no biggie. Back of the chapter, highlights, summary, review. Front of the chapter. Now you're going to look for figures, charts, tables, things like that. Okay, and you're going to look for those as you're going through the chapter, stopping, looking, reviewing, rewriting it as necessary. Get it? Third is now you're looking, and bullet points as well. Third is now you're looking for your side panel definitions, write those down, rewrite them, try and learn and memorize those terms. And then you're going to make your way through the chapter like that. Now, I will say this, in the NASM exam prep course that we provide at Body Design University, we do have videos and audio textbook, but the video will actually help you to know even further along what's important, what's not important. But right now on this video, I just want you to understand that the most basic study tip is start at the back of the chapter, then go to the front and move forward through the chapter, notating the things that I've already mentioned to you on this. So I'm hoping this is helpful because this is the most basic way to study and deal with the NASM textbook. And I hope it's helpful. If it is, write the word understand because I'm really asking whether or not the material that I just went over you made sense, was relatively easy to understand, or at least the methodology was easy to understand. And just write the word understand. Now, look, we're trying to help you to pass the NASM exam, particularly if possible on the first go around. So just let us know how we can be of assistance. Remember, if you've not done so, please subscribe to the channel. Give us a like if it was helpful. Leave comments as well in the comment section. You can share the video as well. Why not? Couldn't hurt. Let us know how we can help and be of assistance. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.